its essence, that's the theme of the message that I've come to share with each and every one of us here today, is that love will, and love does, and love is. We can use all of those tenses in regard to that wonderful word, love. The noun tense, the verb tense. Heck, it can even be used as an adjective, can it not? And one of the roads, one of the ways to tap the experientially that love is finding a way presently in our lives came by way of a reminder to me when I stumbled across just a month ago a book that I have. And I love this book so much I got two copies. I got one in St. Paul and I got the other in Rapid City, South Dakota. And it's a book by Rob Bresnik. And the title is actually the title of the talk today. It's called Pronoia, the Antidote to Paranoia. That's at the top of the book. And at the bottom of the book, it says how the whole world is conspiring to shower us with blessings. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Talk about the kind of conspiracy that we all want to welcome in our lives. That which, those conspiracies that shower us with blessings. Now, one of the beauties, of course, given the theological, the spiritual tenet and truth, that love, right now, right here, we need go nowhere else. We need not fix anything about ourselves. We don't need to personally or professionally grow another inch for love to be experienced as opening every door in our lives. And here's the magic. Right now. Right here. And ongoingly, always. Love is this limitless quality and quantity. Without intending to, I'm sure, a number of years ago, and I want to tell the story that I heard on NPR. And it was about a graduate student, actually a doctoral student, who at that time was doing her central thesis around a study that involved her reading, digesting, and summarizing what was on the market at that time over 125 self-help books or spiritually based books. And this doctoral student took it upon herself in her reconnaissance and her detective work, her investigation, to not only read and summarize all of these books, what she was looking for are what were the common denominators? What were the themes or the theme that ran its way through all of the texts? Now these texts, the 125 plus or minus a couple three, were written beginning back, the earliest one that she had studied, I recall, was written in the 1920s. She didn't name these titles. And the most recent was written up until, and this study was done when I came across this report, it would have been the early 2000s. And she not only condensed and made cliff notes, then she boiled down some core tenets and ideas and themes and ideas even further and even further and even further. And as she got to the place where she could not condense anymore, 3 words remained. Now these 3 words constituted every theme that ran through all of the 125 self-help books. Now here are the 3 words. And of course, in a minute, we're going to put these words in an I am statement. The words, confident or confidence, focused and focusing, and centered or center. Derivations of the same word, of course. So in unity, if we together look, and we can do this silently right now, but while I say the I am statement aloud, please, each of us, in our own way, in a fashion that's most comfortable to all of us, to each of us, is allow and invite let us say, the vibrational quality of the I am statement to amplify and even further magnify that which follows, the sentence, the short sentence. That way, we make it even more deeply and pervasively, vibratorily ours. We lay claim to the truth of what we're about to say, particularly when we begin the statement with I am. And I'm going to say more about that story in a few moments, about the I am. But for now, just allow the vibrational quality of the truth contained in the following three statements. Number one, I am confident. I am focused. I am centered. And as we are, and individually as the incarnate I ams that we come to represent and live and manifest our lives outwardly in the direction of demonstrating the truth of who and what we are, spiritual beings. And that's in part what I am lays claim to. And one of my favorite mantras overall since I heard this NPR report is very simply, and I can and you can do this very quickly, whenever you want, wherever you are, and it only takes a couple of seconds when we want to recenter and focus and get back in touch with the confidence that Jesus talked about when he said, of myself, I can do nothing. It is the Father that indwells me that does the work. That's the kind of confidence with a capital C that I'm inviting each and every one of us in a renewed way, beginning today, August 16th, to lay solid claim to confidence as individuals and confidence, the confidentiality, the confidence prevailing as a spiritual community. And I ask that we all claim that for Unity in the Valley today. On behalf of Unity in the Valley, we the gathered, we the participants, we who come here and share the spiritual experiences in the community that exists, in the worship that is replete, vibrating around and off of these walls, right here, right now, today. On behalf of Unity in the Valley, collectively, we are focused. We are confident. We are centered. There are four individuals that, if time permits today, I want to share a little bit about. These individuals have been integral parts of my life, influenced me immensely, and I'm not sure that any of the four of them ever knew that. Except for one. I didn't seize the opportunity when it was available to me to tell them so, how much they each have contributed to my life. And if we allow the essence of the message or the story, the little feature or cliff note that I'm about to share about these in regard to these four individuals, they will, what they came to share with me is going to be shared with each and every one of us. And in that way, we'll allow the blessing to continue to magnify and to unfold and to ripple throughout time. The first individual is a man named Ama Uwa. Ama, in the years that I knew him, we were in school at Unity Village at the time, and this was back in the early 1980s is when I personally was in touch with Ama. And Ama was in ministerial school at that point. He was in a 2-year program, and Nigeria was his home country. And Ama and I became friends. Ama was kind of a quiet, retiring type. But as we went to out of class and into the cafeteria for lunch or for dinner, Ama and I were catching each other's eyes, catching each other's gaze. And I later came to understand that I would hold and suggest that Ama was, in his own quiet spiritual way, he was extending an invitation to me to come into his presence so that we could talk, so that we could commune. Now, a couple of weeks of our friendship and getting to know each other passed, and there was one evening where we finished dinner together in the Unity Village cafeteria, and it was after a long day of classes, and we were walking through the buildings and out into nature, back to first Amma's apartment where he was staying, and then I was going to go on from there to the motel where I was staying. And Amma paused us. The sun had gone down and the stars were out by this time. It was quite late in the evening. And Amma said, "Richard, I want to share a pearl of great price with you." And Amma came to understand that I was ready for this at that time. And as he paused, he gently grabbed my hand and he said, "What I want you to know is perhaps the most important or the most powerful spiritual tool that I, Amma, have come across in my lifetime." He said, "Is the power of the I am, capitals I am." And to demonstrate, he took my hand and he raised it. And he also said, "Richard, look up. Look up at the stars." And as we were looking up and he was holding my hand and he put my hand up like this and his hand was under mine, he said, "What I want us to know and you for always to remember, that whenever you evoke the name, the words I am," he said, "you've instantly tapped into the highest vibratory God energy that exists on this planet. It's like Om. It's the Judeo-Christian version of Om, the sound of all creation. From the beginning, the sound, if God had a sound, it would be Om. And if God had a sound, it would be I am." And Amma said all of that in just a couple, 3 seconds. Much more briefly than it took me to just share it with you. But then he said, "Here's the second most important thing." He said, "Be careful and mindful of whatever you say to yourself or aloud that follows I am." We always want to follow I am with something positive and affirmative, and we want to be sure that whatever we say after I am whole, I am well, I am prosperous, I am healthy, I am enjoying harmonious relationships, like that, versus, "Oh, I'm ill, I'm broke, any of those things. No. Out of here with that." He said, "Because," now Amma concluded his share thusly. He said, "When we say I am whole, I am light, I am love, I am joy, or I am prosperous," he said, "Richard, what we're doing," he said, "like we're looking up at the stars right now." He said, "Let's pretend like in those years, it was a Polaroid camera, way before smartphones. So we need to use the way that Amma said it. Today it would be, we raise our iPhone camera, and he said, what we do, he said, I am, and then what we say after that, we go click. We're taking a picture of it. We're making an imprint of what follows I am, and we're allowing it to be imbued in that which we're saying to the universe. We're saying to the God of our understanding, please bring me more of this. I'm laying claim to the greater good. Whatever we said after I am. Oh. Good words, according to 125 self-help books. I am focused. I am confident. I am centered. The other individual that I want to talk briefly about, who has been also one of those beings that has inspired me greatly, is a woman named Veronica Morsch. Veronica's deceased of about 10, 12 years ago now. And during the years that I knew Veronica, she had just left her teaching position as a college professor. I forget the name of the college. It was in Florida. And she had joined the firm where I was already working in Rapid City, South Dakota, called College Survival Incorporated. And Veronica and I were both consultants in this educational and publishing company that, just a brief aside, had the owner of the company had written and had authored and published and disseminated, then and through the next 25 years that followed, the best-selling college text in the world called Becoming Master Student. And when I come back to visit with you again, I'll talk a little bit about becoming a masterful students of our own. Some of those techniques and tools and processes. But for now, back to Veronica. Veronica and I, over the couple of years that we worked together, became very, very intimate and good friends. Not only with myself, but with Carol. Carol came to know Veronica very well. And Veronica had a presence and a way, had a demeanor, without even trying. Many of us have heard the term, right, authentic being or authentic presence. Well, Veronica was a deep, rich, spiritual woman, without ever saying that she was. And of course, she and I, in our friendship conversations, including Carol much of the time, off hours in socializing, Veronica would speak of her faith. She was a devout Christian, more traditional than I was in Unity at that time. But Veronica shared, as she entrusted me with a gem, a story that I'm going to entrust all of us with, because I just know I'm in good company here. Yeah, we're in good company. We're each other, look around, behind, beside you, we're in good company. And Veronica knew she was in good company with me, and I could be entrusted with this story. Here it goes. She says, Richard, many years ago, after my husband was killed, he was a pharmacist, and he went out to get some milk and bread for dinner. And the store that he went into, he didn't come out of alive. There was a bandit there. There was a robber. And my husband was shot accidentally, and he died. He said, after that, Veronica went on to say, she said, I had my son, Kelvin, and it was just Kelvin and me. And Kelvin was 4 or 5 years old at the time, and I didn't know what to do. She said, I hadn't, coming from Jamaica, I hadn't established myself professionally in the United States yet. And what came to her through prayer is that she was to start a preschool. And she got the necessary license or credential to be able to do that in Washington, D.C. And over the months that followed, Veronica built her business. And she hired an aide, and she had a small number of preschool children. I believe the number was 10 or 12. And on one occasion, it was field trip day. And Veronica had a van that would safely seat all of the children. And the outing from wherever the school was located was to the zoo and back on that day. So it was Veronica, and I think present that day in attendance were 8 children, one of whom was Calvin. Let's remember that, because I'm going to tie Kelvin back to the story of Veronica's son, was present in this little minivan. And the 8. And they go on their way. They get out onto the streets, and it was fairly heavy traffic on the way to the zoo, and they were about midpoint. And Veronica said she could see that the stoplight she was approaching on, I don't know what the streets were, she named them, that they were major Washington, D.C. corridors. And as she began to approach the stoplight just ahead, it went from yellow to green. And she was proceeding through the intersection, but coming from the other direction, this way. Veronica's headed here, coming from this direction, barreling into the intersection was a dump truck. And the dump truck did not stop or did not abide by the red light. The dump truck would have had the red light. And it kept coming. And Veronica was so close and going at a residential speed of 35 miles an hour, she knew she couldn't stop in time. Here they were, just like that. Now here's the rest of the story. Remember, before I tell you this, Veronica was not subject to temptation. She didn't fudge. She was a straight shooter, and she told them like it is. All right, she said, Richard, here we were. It was imminent crash. And I turned to the Father, Mother, God presence and said, Lord, we are in your hands. Right at that moment, Veronica said, Richard, you might not believe me. You might not. But you go ask Kelvin. He was working around the corner. He was working in the shipping room at College Survival. Kelvin was, at that time, 20 years old. He remembers. She said what happened was the van and all of us in it were lifted up over the top of the dump truck. And the dump truck went through an intersection. The van was lifted up and over and set down gently right on the other side of the intersection. And of course, they were so shocked, Veronica pulled over. And the children began to talk. And of course, out of the mouths of babes, the one of the 5 or so-year-old little girls, and a little boy sitting next to her said, simultaneously, they said to Veronica from their seat in the van, they said, Teacher, did you see the angels that picked us up and lifted us over the top of that dump truck and set us down? And Veronica said, yes, darling. Yes, I did. I did. Well, and not because I didn't believe Veronica, but I did, in fact, accept her invitation later in that day, and I went to talk to Kelvin, just to be sure. This is a pretty fantastic story, just to be sure. And Kelvin said, yes, in fact, Richard. He said, I remember it as vividly as I remember anything in my life. He said, that's exactly how it happened. Well, I share Veronica's gem with all of us. Not to dazzle, not to impress. She didn't share it that way. But rather, the thing that Veronica went on the following day or week in conversation with me to kind of PS that story with. She said, Richard, while that event was so phenomenological, and yes, it was an impressive demonstration of miracle in a manifest, huge way. It doesn't happen every day or very often for most of us. For some of us, it doesn't happen at all in that shape or form. But what she wanted me to carry with me, more than the memory of that story, and where we'll come to a pause in my message together here today. Now, I paraphrase what Veronica said. She said, always and forever, wherever we are, and this is a term we're familiar with in unity, we cannot be where God isn't. That's put in the negative. She said, wherever we are, God is always there present, not only around us, but the I am presence is the God energy, the Christ light, if we shall and would in unity be very comfortable with, always, everywhere, all the time. We're permeated, like the songs both musicians sang for us today. Love will find a way. Everything is holy now. The invitation as we prepare to close the message portion of our service today is that indeed everything is holy now. In a theological premise called incarnational theology, it teaches what Jesus said in theological terms, that all of us and everything around us has a presence, molecular vibration of the divine. That Charles Fillmore actually said in his early prophetic mystical writings. He said, the cosmic Christ was like a huge worldwide explosion, gentle but worldwide pervasive explosion, and into the atmosphere was infused, Charles said back then, with Christ consciousness. And so is everything else. And so are all of us. Back to Jesus' words, and we'll close with this from the Gospel of St. Thomas. Split a cord of wood, and there you will find her. Walk on and turn over the stone, and here I am, in your presence, now and always, is the promise that we can make our own in a new way.